Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The NFL Show is brought to you by Replenishing Care and Technologies. Check them out at rcndt.com. Also by Manscaped, which is one that I know that, Sam Teets has been looking forward to. Right, Sam?
Yeah. To say the least, Mike.
But you can use the promo code TG20 to get a 20% discount on your first order, so make sure you check out Manscaped. I am your host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, Sam Teets. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing great. How about you, Mike?
All right. Le'Veon is doing great because he's no longer a New York Jet, and sources right now narrow to 3 teams for him to pick from as the Dolphins, Chiefs, and Bills. What do you think is the most interesting here, Sam? Dolphins, Chiefs, or Bills? And what do you think the best fit is for Le'Veon Bell?
The most interesting to me is the fact that Miami's on there. Maybe it's because they play the Jets twice a year, and maybe she just wants that sweet revenge. But really, it's surprising they put Miami on there, a team that's not competing immediately with 2 teams, the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs, you could join for a couple of months and maybe win a Super Bowl with. So to me, it's a little bit surprising that Miami's on there. But we're talking fit. The fit probably Buffalo is the best chance, I think, to win the championship, but also get starting time. Because they have Devin Singletary there. He's been good, but Singletary is not a top 10, maybe not even a top 15 running back in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I think he goes to the Bills. I think the Bills makes the most sense. The Chiefs, you got Hilaire there already. But, of course, you don't really have a great backup there. So maybe it makes sense for the Chiefs, too, as an insurance policy. And I think the Dolphins won at 2-3. I think they are a playoff contender this year. But if Le'Veon Bell wants to look down the road and maybe sign a longer contract, the Miami Dolphins, I think, are set up to be successful over the next couple of years. So this is something, if not looking right away to maybe win a Super Bowl, maybe Miami's the better fit with him.
Well, there's also the situation where you want to make sure you're getting enough touches that you can show off that you're still – or you have something left in your tank that it wasn't just something New York basically misusing you. Go Pittsburgh Steelers. He's not going to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He won't go there. I'm a Steelers fan. Like, I love the Steelers. They're doing phenomenal this year. But bringing Le'Veon Bell back to Pittsburgh, to me, it just is not a smart option. I think you probably tested this. There's been so much drama in Pittsburgh's locker room. I want to say maybe not last year as much, but for 3 years prior to that, there were so many issues. Le'Veon Bell was phenomenal while he was in Pittsburgh, but at this point, just let Antonio Brown, let that kind of sit away. Their era was very dominant offensively, obviously, but no Super Bowls, no rings. It's time to just move on, time to let that go.
Yeah, and I think with Pittsburgh, I don't think you can have the same offensive line that you had there. And I think the one thing about Le'Veon Bell, for him to be successful, you've got to have a pretty good line because he likes to come up, kind of look for an opening. And if you stick him someplace with a poor offensive line, I don't think he's going to be as successful. And I think the thing that is really disturbing here is Adam Gase, which everything Adam Gase does is really disturbing because he's a horrible football coach. But the fact that when they asked him if he used him correctly, Le'Veon Bell in New York, he said that was irrelevant. And when you look at the comment that it's irrelevant whether I used him right or not, tells you exactly what Adam Gase is. I think Adam Gase gets fired sometime in the next month.
Yeah, I mean, Jets fans hope so because really, you paid this guy. I think he made him at the time he signed the deal. He was the 2nd or 3rd highest paid running back in the NFL. And then you say, it doesn't matter how I used him, if I used him right or not. Of course it matters if you used him right or not. I mean, really, this was a guy who, granted, he sat out all year, so we don't know if that affected him or not, but he was a perennial Pro Bowler before going to New York. The offensive line was terrible there. He struggled there, didn't perform well at all. I think his best game was 129 yards from scrimmage one time, which is what he averaged during his 5-year career with the Steelers. So really, there was a lot of issues there in New York, and I don't think Le'Veon Bell was the biggest one of them. My main concern, if I'm a coach bringing him into my locker room, Le'Veon Bell, I guess he was on Twitter liking tweets about how Adam Gase should be fired, which is understandable considering that he should be fired. But at the same point, if I'm a coach, I don't want to bring in someone who's going to passive-aggressively comment on my coaching style on Twitter.
Yeah, but if you suck as a coach, you can't really blame him. All right, the COVID has reared its ugly head again with the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers. The Falcons have shut down their facility after positive virus tests. This is something that I don't think is going to go away as this season progresses.
No, it's becoming quite clear. We're going to see this pop up pretty much at this point for every week, I think we'll have at least one team that has issues. It's surprising now looking back on it. We got through basically the first 4 weeks of the year, I want to say, without running into any major issues at the time. Now I think there's going to be at least one team, maybe two teams every week that's going to have an issue like this. Although it sounds optimistic that Atlanta will go on as scheduled, the NFL has not altered any of their plans for this weekend for the Falcons so far. And it sounds like if they had gotten one more negative test back, they could have gone back as soon as this afternoon to the facility. They just were being precautionary, keeping it closed.
Yeah, and also Sam Hubbard was put on the IR by the Cincinnati Bengals, which really hampers their defense. You've got Carlos Dunlap, you got Carl Lawson, but it takes away the depth again. And it seems like every time the Bengals start to make a move where the defense is starting to look pretty good, because they did play well in Baltimore, it's one of those you take a step forward and 2 steps back.
If you're just getting Mike Daniels and Geno Atkins healthy again, you're starting to build up that interior part of your defensive line. Sam Hubbard has been on Carlos Dunlap, probably your best pass rushers this season so far. Putting him on IR, hopefully it's just a short-term one where it's just 3 weeks and he'll come back after that. But missing him, that's a lot off the edge, and I don't know if you have the depth to replace it right now.
All right, the Cleveland Browns wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. was sent home Thursday with an illness. Browns coach Kevin Stefanski said that Beckham hasn't tested positive for COVID, but that the team was taking actions by keeping him away from the practice facility out of an abundance of caution. Beckham did take a COVID-19 test today before leaving the practice facility, as Stefanski said the team would know the results of that by Friday. So here we go again, Sam.
Yeah, this could be another time where the Steelers run into a situation where they're playing a team that might not be able to play. They might have to reschedule. We've seen things like this already where Haskins, he didn't travel with the team from Washington this past week, but he was sick. He had a stomach bug or something like that, and he was home. Hopefully it's a similar situation with Odell where he's just sick. He doesn't have to come and play, and he can recover and maybe be ready for game time. At the same point, even if you don't have him, you're Cleveland, I'm not sure missing Odell Beckham is going to make a huge impact if you can just have Austin Cooper and your tight ends get a bigger role in that offense.
All right, we get an extra Monday night game this week also, as Buffalo and Kansas City will play at 5 o'clock Eastern on Fox and the NFL Network. So COVID's not all bad. We get extra football games during the week sometimes.
Yeah, it's nice, Amy. It gives us more stuff to talk about on Monday. It gives us more content, and even on Tuesday as well. So I enjoy that.
But no Thursday game.
Yeah, we're a little bit short on ideas for today.
You there?
Yeah, I'm there. Are you?
Yeah. Robert Carter says go big. All right. So let's look at this. We're getting close to the trade deadline. There's a lot of rumors. So today, 5 teams we think that start getting players or adding players before the NFL deadline. I've got one for you here, Sam. What about the Dallas Cowboys?
You want them adding or selling? You want them adding players?
I want them selling. I'd sell.
Really? That's an interesting one. I could see some players on that team you could try to get rid of. Like DeMarcus Lawrence to me at defensive end. I wouldn't be worried. I would try to move on from him. He's got a massive contract I wouldn't want to keep. But who else are you selling there? Who else are you getting rid of?
You could sell everybody there. It wouldn't really matter, would it? I mean, the thing is this. When you look at the Cowboys, sure, they could win this division. But what the hell does it matter? You're going to get beat first round of the playoffs anyways when you play a good team.
Yeah, that's really going to be their issue here is they don't have the power or the star power or even the depth at this point to hold on and be a top team in that conference. I mean, even the Eagles, if the Eagles got there, maybe have a bit of a better shot because the coaching staff's better. But the Eagles, too, are probably a first round out. So they're in a situation with that whole division. They might as well look 5 years down the line, right?
All right, so let's look at it like this. I don't think the Cowboys imagined they would be 1-3. And if they're 1-4, 1-5, well, it is. They had the epic collapse by Atlanta. They have won a game. Tyron Smith, La'el Collins, all are done for the year. And, I mean, it makes you think maybe things are going to get worse. I think Dallas is going to keep Prescott, and they'll make signing him a top priority in the offseason. But with so much money dedicated to Dak, Zeke, Amari Cooper, somebody like Michael Gallup becomes a trade asset. He could be a great number 2 receiver. It is under 21, which means Dallas can net a high pick of return. In addition, Everson Griffin could be shopped for a late round pick. And really, if you want to blow this up, even Andy Dalton's going to have trade value, especially if he plays a couple more good games. And in a season where a starting quarterback could be sidelined at any moment with COVID, I think maybe Andy Dalton can get you more here than what you think. And then all of a sudden, you can maybe stockpile draft picks for next year and maybe build that defense. You sign Dak Prescott long-term, and then you've got a football team to possibly win a Super Bowl.
See, the one you said that it makes the most sense to be getting rid of Michael Gallup, because you already have Amari Cooper, and you paid him a lot of money. And CeeDee Lamb, who's on a rookie deal. Gallup is a quality number 2 guy, but on a team like the Baltimore Ravens, maybe, who need receiving options, who need receivers, a guy like Gallup could be competing with the number 1 spot. So if you split him to like a team like Baltimore and try to get a number 1 return, or not number 1, a number 2 round pick in return, I could see that happening, because really the Ravens need receivers, and they're one of those offenses that's supposed to be very good in the AFC, but they struggled through the first couple of weeks here. They need receiving help. Marquise Brown, who they used a first-round pick on a little while ago, he has not delivered so far, while Gallup's been much more productive.
All right, so am I nuts? I think the Dallas Cowboys should sell right now.
No, you definitely are nuts for saying that. I think you are crazy to say that, just because they're going to try to make the playoffs here. They feel like this division is entirely open to them.
Why?
They feel like there's no one in their way.
If you can't win the Super Bowl, Sam, what in the hell is the point? The goal is to win the Super Bowl. Can the Dallas Cowboys win the Super Bowl with the way? It doesn't matter if it's Dak Prescott or Andy Dalton. They're both good quarterbacks, but neither one of them have a chance to win a Super Bowl with this roster.
No, they don't. But do you think Jerry Jones wants to miss the playoffs? Jerry Jones just wants to make the playoffs. Listen, Jerry Jones is not the kind of person who's going to be able to reason.
I think Jerry Jones, before he dies, wants to win a Super Bowl so people drop the Jimmy Johnson stuff. I think that's the only thing that matters to him, which is why he's run this team the way he's run it. He's run it in desperation. He brings in Mike McCarthy. The problem with Mike McCarthy is this. We just talked about you got a big-time quarterback, you got 2 big-time receivers, you got a big-time running back. So what do? You throw the ball 50 times. That's not how this is supposed to work. You've got one of the best running backs in football. You've got 2 excellent receivers, a really good quarterback. You should be running the ball to set up play action to throw the ball down the field. Michael McCarthy is not doing that. That's why he's a joke as a coach. If you've got Zeke Elliott, run his ass 30 times a game, throw the ball deep. The other thing you do by predominantly being a run team is you limit how much your defense has to be on the field.
And they have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. It's not by far the worst. So at this point, I agree with you. The offensive game plan they've implemented has not worked whatsoever. I still think they have a really good chance to win this division. I still think they're going to win it.
But it doesn't matter.
I know it doesn't matter, Mike. I know it doesn't matter. That's all they're thinking about.
I don't think it is. If you want to win a Super Bowl, this is the perfect time to set yourself up to do that. With Dalton and Gallup, you might be able to get 2 or 3 number 2 picks next year. That is more conducive to winning than anything else they could do right now. They can't win the Super Bowl with what they've got. The defense is atrocious. Sure, they'll get some guys back, but they're still not going to win a Super Bowl. They're not going to win a playoff game.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you here, Mike. I see what you're saying. But really, the goal for the coaching staff that they're looking at right now, they're not thinking like that. They're not as smart as you, Mike. They're not being able to think about forward. They're just thinking about this one season.
Mike McCarthy's not the GM. It doesn't matter what Mike McCarthy wants. All right? It matters what Jerry Jones wants, what the GM wants, which is basically Jerry Jones. And if I want to win a Super Bowl, I'm going to take advantage of this situation because let's face it, now I'm probably going to get Dak for a little bit less money. Maybe I can get him for what I offered him before. And, you get rid of Gallup, you get rid of Dalton, you get rid of Griffin, you draft pick, it helps. So once again, sure, Mike McCarthy fine with just making the playoffs because that's pretty much, except for 1 year, been what Mike McCarthy's been good at. The problem is this, what Mike McCarthy hasn't been good at is winning a Super Bowl. So to tell you the truth, if I'm Jerry Jones and I got that much money, I sell right now. I get as many draft picks as I can. I re-sign Dak Prescott for what I wanted to sign him for. I get Tyrone Smith, Collins back, and then I fire Mike. I throw a bunch to money, Eric, the enemy. That's what I do if I'm Jerry Jones and I want to win a Super Bowl.
No, I do agree with you there. That would be the smart move to make, to go for next
now,
year.
Is that
year
crazy?
After. It doesn't sound as crazy when you put it that way. Do I think it will happen? I don't think there's any chance in a million years they're actually going to do that.
All right. Who do you got, Sam?
The Atlanta Falcons, to me, are a team that need to be selling right now because they have no immediate future. I mean, they already got rid of their...
agreed with me now. Yeah.
I'm just saying the Falcons need to sell. The Falcons need to be a team that get...
What? Are we having a little delay again today?
Yeah, we're having a little bit of delay here, I think.
All right. Probably something to do with the weather. Yeah, because Julio Jones can still get you something. He's only 31.
Yeah, and he's not getting any younger. Let's be realistic here. By the time the Falcons are a competitive team again, it could be 2-3 years down the road. At that point, Julio Jones' value is depleted so much that he's not going to be worth a second or potentially first-round pick. If you sell him now, you would get so much more for him than what you will in a couple of years. So if I'm the Atlanta Falcons, I'm trying to get rid of Julio Jones. I think the center, Alex Mack, is a guy who still has maybe third or fourth round value. You could get him something for him. Even at the defensive backfield, you have so many players who've been hurt. But if you could get something for Keanu Neal, who's never been healthy really, you could get something for that guy and maybe go out there and rebuild your team here in the next couple of years, next 2 or 3 years, set the next coach up with something important.
All right, I'll give you a team. The organization is willing to completely reset and recoup in picks. Trading J.J. Watt could be their best option.
Really? I mean, yeah, I can see that happening, though. That's not shocking at all. Houston getting rid of Watt makes sense to me because, really, I mean, he's old, but he's over the hill, kind of, and they definitely need to reset on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and the thing about J.J. Watt is, normally you'd have to worry about trading the star away could damage fan attendance. Well, it's just 500 cardboard cutouts anyways.
Yeah, you're right. You wouldn't have to deal with it this year. It really wouldn't hurt you that much. So if you're Houston and you're going to annoy your fans, this is probably the best year to do it because you don't have to hear it for them, really. And there are other assets here like Whitney Merciless. You can maybe get rid of.
And the other thing,
something like Zach Cunningham.
Kenny Steele, Will Fuller, and Duke Johnson.
Yeah, 3 easy ones. Those are 3 easy ones you can set out and get a couple picks for. Maybe even to 2, maybe even a second rounder if you get packaged a couple of them, send them to a team, a couple of thirds, a couple of fourths. It's pretty easy for them.
All right. What about the Detroit Lions in the final year of his contract? He's a versatile safety. I think any defensive coordinator would be lucky to add. And I think he could even be in England. And when you look at this, Marvin Jones, Danny Amendola, there's guys they need to reset. And I think another option is trading linebacker Jared Davis to another team who could take advantage of his first-round talents before he hits free agency. So I think that the Detroit Lions, they're going to this month by firing Matt. You might as well reset it all. And I don't think that it's beyond comprehension Matthew Stafford could be traded.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Is there a situation where Stafford gets traded? Because right now he's, 31, 32 years old. So he's still technically in the prime of his career, even though he's playing much worse this year than he did last season before he got hurt. To me, trading Stafford is not off the table because this organization, the way it's been run so far, you're not going to be winning a Super Bowl in the next 5 years. You're not going to be winning a Super Bowl during the remaining prime of Stafford's career. He's got an injury history, and you've seen what he's done before. You know he's peaking his limits. So to me, Stafford's the kind of guy that I wouldn't be beyond moving him, and I wouldn't be beyond moving a guy like Matt Ryan into Atlanta. If you can move those kind of veteran quarterbacks who are on these bad teams, haven't been able to prove that they can go out there and win Super Bowls in the last decade and a half, I don't see why you would hold on to those guys when you're potentially just entering an entire new rebuild.
All right, if you want to trade Matt Stafford, what team that's a contender would you think would want to go after Matt Stafford? Because I have one off the top of my head, but go ahead.
You have one. I think If I was going to look at a team that's a contender and they needed a quarterback, the two teams that kind of stick out to me, and I'm not sure you're going to agree with this necessarily, but I was thinking Chicago and maybe San Francisco.
I think they're definite. But for me, so he didn't have to move so far. What about Indianapolis? I mean, you would give the Colts then a 31, 32-year-old borderline elite quarterback. I mean, why wouldn't you take a shot at that if you're the Colts? You can give up draft picks. The Colts already have built a good offensive line. The defense is solid. They've got two good running backs, even though Marlon Mack's out for the season. I think that Indianapolis could set themselves up for the next 5 or 6 years if they were to make that trade for Matthew Stafford.
No, I think you're right on there. That's a better option than the ones I came up with for sure. The Colts, like you said, in that division, they have a legitimate chance. Show, right? pretty much, Mike, pretty much. But really, he's Stafford is far superior to what we've seen so far in Indianapolis. Even Jacoby Brissett-wise, I think Brissett would be much worse than Stafford, even though he would be better than Philip Rivers at this point. And if I'm the Colts, I'm calling about these kind of guys because you have a chance to win this year. You don't want to ruin it. You don't want to wait too long because we've seen what happens to those great offensive lines. We've seen it in Philadelphia, Dallas, Pittsburgh. You wait too long, those offensive lines decay, and suddenly you have trouble running the ball. And that's what the Colts' whole offense is predicated upon. So you cannot continue waiting to get a quarterback to win a championship.
Yeah, my question, a place like Chicago, do you have the weapons even with Matt Stafford, or are you just putting Stafford in another position is not that great? I mean, I don't know. I think San Francisco would be perfect for him, but then eventually Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be healthy. Then what do? You cause the controversy there then. And I don't think Matt Stafford's going to San Francisco and winning. He may go to Chicago and win, but I think his best chance for success is Indianapolis. And I think the Colts are the team that can most likely use him and benefit from him being there. I think if you put Matt Stafford in Indianapolis, I think Indianapolis then is a team that can go a couple weeks into the playoffs, maybe win a first-round playoff game. Who knows from there? You got Jonathan Taylor, good offensive line, good defense. I think that then they're in a situation where you add a couple more players next year, and then all of a sudden you're a Super Bowl contender. I don't see them ever being a Super Bowl contender with Philip Rivers or Jacoby Brissett.
No, and you and I can both agree on that. Philip Rivers is by far over the hill. At this point, he's not even a game manager. He's the kind of guy who loses games for you. Brissett, to me, is a game manager. He's better than Rivers at this point, but not the kind of guy who's going to go out there and win you close games.
Well, Philip Rivers is so far over the hill that he's already reached the bottom at the other side.
Colts fans will tell you that from watching the games the past couple of weeks. He really is. He's hurting them more than he's helping them at this point.
Oh, I watched him last week, and he's a statue. If you rush him up the middle, he's basically dead in the water. You got any other teams you think that could be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline?
Let me put this past you, because I saw some theories about this. What if the Jets tried to trade Sam Darnold?
Why wouldn't they try to trade Sam Darnold? They don't have anything else to put around him. I'm telling you what, if I'm the Washington Redskins, I would go after Sam Darnold hard.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because I think it's a legitimate situation there where if Gase is going to get fired, you might have to hit a little bit of a reset button here on this team. And Darnold, to me, I mean, you could probably get a second rounder, maybe even if you stretch it, get a first rounder for him. And again, he's not going to win New York, but I think this is still a talented quarterback who could win elsewhere. So there are a bunch of teams. If I'm Washington, I would be calling about this guy.
Yeah, if I'm Washington, I start him at quarterback right away, and we're going to win some games. We might even be able to win that division. The defensive line is solid. Let's face it, they might be able to win that division because anybody could win that division right now. Another team, same damn city, New York Football Giants. Why wouldn't you go after Sam Darnold? He's better than what you've got.
Yeah, the one issue with that situation might be that the Giants are so far down the hole right now. They're with the New York Jets, the worst team in the NFL. If you're just putting Sam Darnold,
I think that from what I've seen, the Jets are immeasurably worse because the Giants at least have the makings of a good defense. The offensive line is a little bit better than what it was, the last few years. It wouldn't take much, though. You're going to have Saquon Barkley back next year. I mean, you draft a wide receiver, you give Darnold somebody to throw to. I don't think it's that far out. I put it like this. I think the Jets are a lot farther away from being a playoff team than what the Giants are. And maybe that's just because of the defense or the division they're in. But, I mean, I would take Sam Darnold in a heartbeat on a lot of teams. I mean, right now, I would take Sam Darnold over Baker Mayfield. And I've defended Baker Mayfield.
And the most interesting thing that I think about when I think about Sam Darnold is, what if a team that has a veteran quarterback who's in his late 30s goes out and gets him right now? So my question to you is, would it make sense for, if it financially could happen, the Pittsburgh Steelers to trade for Sam Darnold and sit him for maybe a year behind Ben the rest of this year, and if Ben retires, you move him to the starting role?
What a question is, does he want to sit? The even better question is this. The perfect place for Sam Darnold is what? Northeast of there, in a place called Foxborough, with a coach that's pretty damn good. And I would say Sam Darnold to the New England Patriots makes a lot of sense. And I think Sam Darnold as the starting quarterback could reset this Patriots team to make another 5 to 10 year run as a playoff team. I really believe Sam Darnold is good. I believe you need to get him out of New York before they've completely and utterly ruined him. And, I mean, we've seen it before. Jimmy Garoppolo, when he was playing for the Patriots, looked pretty damn good. And then the longer he's away from Bill Belichick, the worse he's looked. And when I see that, I mean, Cam Newton all of a sudden looks a lot better this year. I mean, there's a lot to be said for Bill Belichick being your head coach. And I can also tell you this, when they always ask who was more important in New England's success, Belichick or Brady, it was Belichick. And I think there is no doubt about that. Now, I think that Belichick needed Brady to make it to those 9 Super Bowls. But I think without Brady, he'd have found somebody and made it to 4 or 5 anyways. I think Belichick is good. And I think if you take a young guy like Sam Darnold and you put him in that system, you could bring him in for 1 year or for the first year as Cam's backup. All right, just to let him learn the offense. And then if Cam has a good season, I mean, you're at least going to get a 3rd-round pick out of Cam when he leaves in free agency if he started most of the season. So you just replaced the 3rd-round pick you lost for some reason cheating to beat the Bengals, which is like the dumbest damn thing I've ever heard of. But, I mean, then you've got a chance to really rebuild this team. And, I mean, right now this team is probably a playoff team because Belichick's the coach. When he gets some players, then all of a sudden they're probably in the AFC Championship game again every year. And I think Sam Darnold is the guy that can do that. So I know I'm crazy, but if I'm the Dallas Cowboys, I sell everything I can. If I'm the New England Patriots or the Washington Redskins, I try to trade for Sam Darnold. And if I'm the Indianapolis Colts, I go after Matt Stafford.
I mean, that Patriots take, that makes a lot of sense to me because we've seen their backups already, Jarrett Stidham, Brian Hoyer. And Cam Newton's like, it's not like he doesn't have an injury history. So really, if you're going to have Cam Newton be your star for the rest of the year anyways, you might as well have Sam Darnold in there, run the system, and take over as the backup because he gives you the best chance to win this year and in the future.
Yeah, my guess is Cam Newton misses a game around week 12 or 13. Sam Darnold comes in and never comes back out.
He could really be something there. Honestly, it do take a little while to learn that system, though, because that system is supposedly one of the more complicated ones.
Yeah, and you're coming from probably the least complicated one than Adam Gase. You know, there's a decent shot that Adam Gase's system may be more complicated than Belichick's, because usually the more complicated things are, the worse the coach is, which is why it becomes complicated. So I think in New England, I don't think the system is complicated. I just think what they do, especially with option routes with wide receivers, it takes very smart players to play in it. So I don't think it's so much that it's hard to learn. It's just hard to learn for idiots. I mean, the perfect example is Chad Johnson. He left Cincinnati where he was only expected to run 2 or 3 routes. He didn't have to, sit in the zone or figure anything out. He just ran deep or he ran a post, and that was about it. When he got to New England, he had to learn the option routes. He had to learn them with Brady. He had to learn them with the other receivers and the way everything fit into the system, and he just wasn't smart enough to do that.
Yeah, I can see that happening. I can see that situation working out. I mean, I guess I didn't fully understand, but you put it in a much better way than I could have put it. So my one final question for you is, we've already talked about Houston should be selling. We talked about Detroit. Should the Vikings be selling right now?
It's according to what they're going to do. If you're planning on firing Mike Zimmer, I don't know, because when I look at it, I don't think Kirk Cousins is ever the guy that's going to win you a Super Bowl. I mean, you got to keep Dalvin Cook. You got to keep Justin Jefferson. I don't know if there's as much on that team to sell as what you would think. I think that roster, especially on the defensive side of the ball, has really dropped in talent over the last few years. So I don't know. Do you keep Mike Zimmer, even if this team ends up 5-11? Because you're going to keep – I don't know. I just think that actually, to me, a Viking rebuild may be more complicated than a lot of these teams that we think suck. Because I think the Vikings let a lot of guys get old fairly quick, or old kind of at the same time. And especially on defense, I think their secondary is terrible. The defensive line's nowhere near what it was a couple of years ago. So right now they're basically running off 3 or 4 stud offensive players, hoping they can score enough points to beat people. It's not worked out. I mean, do you trade Dalvin Cook?
I don't think you can, right? I don't think you could get rid of Cook. It would have to be like the older defensive players, like someone like Harrison Smith. I know you got Anthony Harris is on our franchise tag, and maybe you get something for him. I would be selling defensive guys, but you can't get rid of Justin Jefferson or Dalvin Cook in my mind.
I don't think you can either, and I think that's the issue. And I don't think anybody's going to trade for Kirk Cousins just because of the contract.
No, I don't think so.
Well, how about this? If you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, do you go after J.J. Watt?
You know what? 2 years ago, I would have loved to say yes, but I don't think so because A, the money doesn't work, and B, Stephon Tuitt, who's your defenseman, is pacing 12 or 13 sacks this year. He's doing better than Cameron Hayward. He's doing better than Bud Dupree right now. So I don't think you have to go after J.J. Watt. You already have a good defensive lineman.
Yeah, but you got to realize it makes for great television. I mean, it makes it great for 35 years from now when they do it about the time the Watt brothers played together and led the Steelers to losing to the Bengals twice that year, and the Bengals were actually win the Super Bowl.
Hey, you know what? It would be good TV to watch. I'll give you that.
Yeah. So that's the other question is where would J.J. Watt fit in? Because for somebody to give up a lot, they got to think that maybe he's the difference. How about Los Angeles?
Yeah, I mean are you talking about the Chargers or the Rams? Which one?
I'm talking about the Rams.
Yeah. I can see that working out in the Rams. I mean, they have Aaron Donald, who's great, obviously, from the interior, but you get more of an outside presence. I mean, your best outside pass rusher right now is Leonard Floyd and linebacker. You really do need someone else who's capable of putting up big numbers and capable of maybe attracting a double team. If you're the Rams, getting J.J. Watt, I mean, he's not going to be the stud he was 4 or 5 years ago, but still, he still will get double teams. And Aaron Donald right now is, I think, leading the league in sacks or second in the league in sacks.
Well, the thing is this, all of a sudden, J.J. Watt's going to look a lot younger with Aaron Donald inside of him.
Well, yeah, so you'll get that single. Get those single.
Sound right either, by the way. I just wanted to bring that. I didn't sound right either. Once it came out, I knew that sounded kind of sick and wrong. You don't even know what I said, do you?
No, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, it's because you're too young. But I don't know. There's some people out there that got it, and if they did, they should slap themselves. All right. Anything else you want to discuss, Sam?
We picked up most of it. I think we did a pretty good job.
All right. I want to remind everybody to check out Replenishing Care and Technologies, RCANDT.com. Also, check out Manscaped. I know Sam highly recommends them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that free stuff we'll get there. We'll give it a test try, and
Sam's going to give it a test run live on the internet in 5 to 10 days. So you can see Sam clean everything up. Maybe we could just shave your face on there.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, because you'll look like you're 12.
Yeah, I will.
All right. I'll tell you, though, we need to do a show, me, you, and Steve Risley, and we need to let Steve talk about it a little bit.
Hey, that would be great.
So that's coming soon. All right, so make sure you check out Manscaped. You can check them out on our website. You can click the Manscaped logo. You can also, when you go in there, if you want to buy something, use the promo code TGT20 to get 20% discount off. So I want to remind everybody you can hear us live every day from 1 to 1 o'clock on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Twitch, and Periscope tomorrow. Me and Sam will be on with 2 more Sams. To pick the games this week, we'll have Sam McGinnis, our NHL beat reporter, who also dabbles a little in the NFL, and also a listener, Sam Young, who said that he thinks he knows a lot more than Sam McGinnis, so he's going to come on, and they're going to pick the games against each other. How did we do last week with Steve Rizzer? Who won that?
I'll pull it up right now. I'm pretty sure you did, based on what I saw earlier. I mean, Steve didn't
No,
hit.
it's like
I don't think
every
Steve hit
other
me.
week. It's like every other week then.
Hey, I did win. I think week 4. I think I won, but I gotta get one every now and then. I can't let you have all the fun.
Why let you win one every once in a while?
Oh, that's what it is, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, looking through it right now. Oh yeah, you definitely. Yeah, No, we tied. You and me tied actually.
Well, as long as we beat the guest, that's fine.
We did indeed beat the guest though, so you're right.
All right. So Steve Rizzo,
He picked the 49ers.
Huh?
He picked the 49ers over the Dolphins.
Yeah. Well, we were smarter than to do that. All right, guys. So we're going to wrap it up. Make sure you check us out tomorrow where we'll pick all the NFL games, preview all the games for Sunday, or at least what games are left after more COVID tests. I'm sure will come back today. We'll be down to just 3 games probably. But check us out, and you can hear all of our shows in podcast form everywhere you find podcasts, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, you name it, we're there. So for now, jump on Manscaped, shave your balls, get 20% off. Listen to Replenishing Care and Technologies, rcandt.com. For now, for Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening and watching to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.